large trucks so that we can be able to be more efficient in production. Currently, we produce about 8 bags per acre, but the industry best practice is about 15 bags. So it's us as an industry to partner with the farmers, offer extension services to be able to see that we actually bridge that gap. Talk about rice, 15 bags an acre, when best practice is at 35 bags per acre. And I'd like to thank you, Your Excellency. I saw what you did the other day in Kirinyaga, opening the dam. Those are the kind of initiatives that will partner together with the private sector to ensure that we actually bridge the gap. Once productivity is improved, then we're able to feed our own populace. So if you look, one of the key initiatives, for example, the subsidy on fertilizer, and it's a very welcome initiative, given that where we need to tackle all this is on input, one by one. So we'd like to thank you for that initiative. And, you know, like in the West, say in the US, where they've managed to lock that kind of subsidy over almost in perpetuity, I'd like to request, Mr. President, that this is kept on lock and key, and probably the key thrown away somewhere in oblivion. But if you look, Your Excellency, at the graph on the far side, maize, we still have a gap of about 10% that we still get from our neighboring countries, the Ugandas, the Tanzanias. That can actually be easily covered by us continue partnering with the farmers across the country to be able to improve this productivity. However, the threat still remains the continued fragmentation of the parcels of land, which then kills the productivity and efficiency that we want to achieve. Wheat, on the other hand, is still a big gap. We almost import almost 85, 90%. And we saw what the impact was when Ukraine was invaded. That I've seen the other day, you visiting Ethiopia, and the guys in Ethiopia have done a good job to be able to almost take care of 70% of their wheat usage. So it's up to us to go out there, learn the best practice to be able to cover this gap and to be able to feed our nation. Rice has spoken to. So these are the key commodities when, you know, lack of which tends to make us, you know, go up in arms, say there's no food in Kenya. So that, as an entity, we work together with the government to ensure we cover it fully. I'll move quickly because of time. I talk about value addition, and if you can flip to the next chart, I will probably just take one sector, which is actually a key sector for our economy. I look at tea as a value-added cash crop. This cash crop gives us an exchange earning of about 23% of what we get as a nation. A production of 540,000 tons, 130 billion shillings in terms of revenue. But of this, only 5% is value added. Now, that's a pain. How do we move from a 5% to a 50% as a nation? That's where we get the dollar down to our farmers, okay? And it's up to us as an industry, as manufacturers, to be able to see that instead of exporting the raw material out there, we actually value add and be able to take it to the market. That in itself just loads $12 extra per kg to the consumer. Thinking about my mother, man, an extra 1,200 bob per kg, you know, it's an extra kid in school and things like that. So that's our determination as an industry to be able to do this. It employs more than 600,000 farmers today. So what do we need to do as a sector to be able to increase this from that paltry 5% to a 50% is a brainstorm that we need to have as an agribusiness sector to be able to close this gap. And we definitely promise to be part of the food security. Now, as I conclude, if you look at the graph on the far side, the production in terms of volume has always been almost consistent. But the key thing here now is, I was reading or discussing some things with some people from Rwanda, and where they beat us, they don't have the volume, but they have the quality, which tends to fetch a higher dollar. So the question now, we shift now from volume, we've got the volume. How do we now fetch even higher dollar through increase in the quality of the tea? So those are the discussions that we'll have as an entity, as a sector, to be able to see that we improve and, you know, add to the GDP of this country. So, Your Excellency, we as a sector, especially in the agri and industrializing the agri sector, really committed to ensure that we actually achieve the goal of food security as a country